It's Christine Wilson and Saphira Galoob, and you'll thank us later. Tune in every week and hang out with us because we're a lot of fun.
And no topics off the record, we decided. We are open to talking about everything together with a bit of a sense of humor, a lot of self-forgiveness, a lot of grace, and always being wiser on the other end. Bring it on, girls and boys.
You know what? You'll thank me later that I'm telling you about this. You'll thank me. They're going to hate us, Saphira. It's going to be nuts. I feel like I haven't seen your beautiful face in far too long, Saphira.
I know. We actually had to take a week off from recording, which, in addition to it not being good for listeners, I don't think it's good for the two of us.
No, I miss my my free therapy session.
Well, I miss my feeling clothed or cloaked in love and support and judgment-free zone, and someone who knows me and likes me and loves me even though they know me. That's the thing, is that, you know, when someone's known you a really long time, they may or may not like you anymore, and that's fair.
It's fair. But, you know, Mel Robbins and her book tour, she's all over the place. And the whole concept is let them. And I'm like, you know what? I can't make someone like me. I can't make someone, I can only try to improve and be the best person that I can be and improve on my own character flaws. But I'm fully in on Mel Robbins' idea of let them. Let them. I can't fix people. I can't change people. I can't make people do what I want them to do. I haven't read the book, so there's probably a lot more to it than just let them.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But
I'm going to go like
smart.
La 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 la, because I want to force them.
Yeah.
Force them. I still am kind of wrangling that bull sometimes. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, I won't even get into that story, but I was going to say I was kind of the person who would almost like make the boyfriend break up with you, rather than do it. So yeah, there were ways that I forced people sometimes to do things, but so I think one of the things is we've been really busy running both of our businesses. And I said to you, I was like, should we talk about entrepreneurship? Because it feels like such a glamorous word. And I've spoken to college kids about entrepreneurship. I've talked to very mature entrepreneurs that have made millions. And there is such a gamut of entrepreneurship. And I feel like in the last 13 plus years, I have been through the entrepreneurship boot camp. I'm also the daughter of an entrepreneur, and I've watched my dad for almost 30 years definitely go through the entrepreneurship boot camp. And I think it's very rare that somebody says, I'm going to start a business and it's just an overnight success and they're a millionaire, billionaire, whatever. There's a whole lot that goes into it. And so I think we could probably talk about this for quite a few podcasts, but I thought today, let's go kind of a little high level of some of the good, some of the bad things we wish we had known about entrepreneurship, and why do we keep sticking it out? I mean, there's got to be something outweighing the bad, or we're just masochists. I'm not sure, but I thought,
we definitely have an entrepreneurship sandwich, because after we say the good and we go into, especially because right now I'm having a tough time with my business, and definitely experiencing, I mean, I have no regret about the tough time, but it is some really hard decisions and hard things coming at me. But then to kind of think about, well, why am I doing this? And what would my other kind of employment or professional options be if I didn't do that? So we're going to make an entrepreneurship sandwich this week. Yeah.
So the good, the bad, the wonderful.
Yes, the good. Yeah, the good, the bad, the wonderful. I like it. Then it's like we're not being hyperbolic from the beginning, and then we're being realistic, because that's what we want to do, is be real. And then let's end it on a good note, because there are some really there's some pearls and some gems in both of our experiences that have really defined us and opened up possibilities that, having been a W-2 for somebody else, that we wouldn't have been able to do.
Yeah. So, I mean, what drove me to entrepreneurship and running my own business was basically getting out of the sit at a desk from 9 to 5, no matter what you've done, what you've accomplished, who you are, how much we can trust you. And feeling like ideas were not really rewarded, right? And freedom to be innovative and to do things a different way. So I just, in corporate America, I think I always felt very restrictive. I felt caged It probably didn't go well with my personality and my ADHD. Um, Even when I had outside sales roles and I could get out and do more and run my own business, there still was always constraints and rules, and sometimes it felt very arbitrary. I also worked in a lot of industries that were very male focused and male dominated. And so I was a woman that was loud enough and probably brazen enough to break through it, but I still felt it. I didn't enjoy that experience. Um, so going to entrepreneurship really for me was, I think, my bossy personality could really be the boss. The freedom of my schedule, what I wanted to work on, how I wanted to work, and who I wanted to work with. Those were the big things that drew me to that, to the opportunity. So I don't know what brought you to entrepreneurship. I mean, because you've done it many, multiple times in totally
Yeah.
different
Yes. I
business.
think I'm in business number 6 now. First of all, I don't think I even ever knew the word entrepreneur ever. And I would actually even say that when I decided to start my first business, I didn't even know that I was actually moving into something called entrepreneurship. I just thought I was starting my first business. I mean, I think for me, as I am very culture sensitive in organizations, and when you're on the org chart, you have to play in sandboxes with people you do not respect
Mhm.
and people who are not as like who don't have capacities that you do, and you have people who are above you in the org chart who are making decisions that you can really see like the the idiotness or idiocy in
Right.
I'm going to say it. And I couldn't like contain myself. I was like, I
Yeah.
cannot work around all these idiots. But it wasn't so much that, I mean, I don't want to disparage people who I was in business with. I also was a lawyer. That was really a cultural thing. Like I just didn't want to spend my time doing that type of work. Um, but I also was really driven by my talent at the time, which was teaching dance. And the only way to really do that full time was to build a studio. I'd helped a friend build a studio, and so I really thought I had the capacity to do it. And that was really the beginning of building the business. And I do think it calls upon you to dig up everything you have in terms of raw material and shape it into all that is possible. I think when people talk about starting their own business, they do not do the entire kind of the 360 analysis of what is this, what am I getting, what am I losing, so what am I gaining, but what am I potentially giving up, and what am I putting at risk,
Right.
because that first decade plus that I had the dance studio, we had good revenues and we had a seemingly reputable brand, but the profitability of a dance studio, except for in very unique circumstances, doesn't did not put me on a long-term trajectory for my kind of my we'll call it my planning over into retirement,
Right.
given the lifestyle that I want to live and retire on. So my early years in practicing law, that was fine, and that kind of earning was kind of as you could imagine. But the second I went to entrepreneurship, boy, that salary range was super unpredictable. The sunk cost on the front end that I never got back. So
Yeah.
that is money that you could have put in retirement savings and grant.
Yeah. Really nice floors
Oh yeah,
on in your
oh, God.
studio.
Beautiful, beautiful studio,
Yeah.
happy students, great brand. Nothing in my retirement account.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons I remember when I said to Oj, I said, I want to start this business. He's like, what could you start it on? What's a reasonable budget? And I was like, well, what are you willing to have us part with? Because I wasn't working at the time. So it had to be a conversation. And he's like, how about $500? I was like, $500? And guess what? Here I am 13 years later with a $500 startup. And I can, and I look at people all the time and they're paying very expensive designers for their logos and they're buying 10 to $20,000 web brochure websites and they think they need a fancy office with glass doors and everything. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my first office was 150 square feet. It cost, I think it was like $250 a month. It was in a gross building. But it was a space that we were so proud of with our little IKEA desk that cost $20. I mean, it was as
Was that
inexpensive as
the office
possible.
in Falls Church? Was that your office in Falls
It
Church?
was my first one in Falls Church. We had many offices in the first building, which was
Okay.
where the eyeglass store and the rug store are.
Mhm.
And then we moved over above the Panera and we had one
Yes,
office and then we added
that's
a second
yeah, that's
office.
the Panera Bread. That's when I think I met you in that office. Yeah. Well, I
And then we moved to an even nicer building, which was across from the community center. And that was a condoed office building. And the space we had been built out beautifully. So that's a lot of money also to put in offices. The
yeah.
remote world wasn't then what it is now. So,
Yeah. Well, I had to we actually I'm trying to remember if it was I sold my house and I had a little bit of profit from that. I think I put well at least 150 in building space because we had to build out uh, a commercial building.
right.
And even though my husband did all the work, I mean, it's still expensive. So I think,
Lots of
we
supplies.
started with 50,000 in, and then we ended up doing the second floor. And those costs, I never got that money back. So,
But
yeah,
it is how I met you while
yeah,
you were getting your
it's
building
our
permits.
origin
I'll take
story.
that.
It's our origin story. Yeah.
But
I don't have any regret doing it.
yeah,
But if I were to go back and do it again, I would do it very differently.
you would just spend less on the build out and stuff.
I probably would have I would probably would have so one of my part of my business models is that I actually hosted a yoga studio and a kids dance studio and basically other businesses who didn't
Could
have
use the
the
space.
money who use the space, and I would have not been a landlord. I would have actually just been that business model, and it would have now I don't know what the profitability would have been. It would have been a very different business model. Yeah.
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 Yeah, and, so I always say, one of the probably the biggest regrets, and at this point, it doesn't really matter as much, but I had, go contemplated going back to school for my MBA, and I was in sales at the time. I was kind of focused more in sales and marketing, and I remember my boss at the time said, "Just remember, you're in sales. You're making 6 figures in your 20s in sales. You go back to school. That's 2 years of no income, all of the debt for school, and you're going to come out and people are going to expect you to work in finance or consulting. Do you want to work in either of those?" And I was like, and which I think was a pretty accurate assessment of the time in the early 2000s. I think, that was much more of what you were seeing. I wasn't looking specifically at an MBA program for entrepreneurs or anything like that. Had no idea I wanted to ever run a business. So I couldn't even make that argument at the time. So I think I came into running the business without a lot of business acumen, like, how to deal with your books, how to project your income, how to plan
Cash flow.
cash flow. I mean, cash flow
Oh my
has been
God.
my biggest gripe for 13 years.
Yeah.
I
Well,
still don't think I have it right.
honestly, it is. I mean, that is what I understand. I don't care how big or small you are. The cash flow dilemma and that putting that puzzle together is what affects viability, short, medium, and long term. Yeah.
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 I
And the
and
other,
and I think there are so many times where I had to bail out my business, where I had to go to my parents to help me bail out my business. Um, and this is sounding like the negatives already,
yeah.
but I think these are the things that I just wish I had prepped better.
Yeah.
And so when I meet with people that are considering, even if it's this tiniest little business, I tell them a lot of things they don't want to hear. And I can always see it on their faces. Their faces kind of like crumple. And I'm like, I need you to get an LLC today. You need to get business insurance. You need to contemplate, are you a service-based business? You need to get your business license. You need to get a contract. I have sample contracts I'm happy to share with you. You need to, I give them this laundry list and they're always like, oh my God. And they're like, do I have to get a lawyer? Do I have to, do all these things? I'm like, yes, yes, and yes. You cannot just jump into this and think it's all going to magically work, or that you're going to get to say to some official someday, I didn't know I had to pay taxes on that. Nobody told me. So all of those things, I was very lucky that I had people who helped me not totally mess that up all along. But um, there's a laundry list, and it's probably a great blog post. I probably should write like 10 things I wish I'd known before I started my business. But none of them are that hard, but you have to do the due diligence, and you cannot just be blinded by your great idea. And the number of people that come to me and say, I have the most amazing kids product, it is going to fly off the shelves, or I have the most amazing service. And I have to sort of come back to them and say, let's really figure out. Have you done competitive research? How many people are already out there? You want to print this in the United States, it's going to cost $20 to print it. They're printing it in China, cost them 6. So you already aren't going to win. You put this on Amazon, someone in China is going to rip it off and sell a version of it in about 2 minutes, and you're not going to be able to stop them. You want to sell it on Etsy, this is what that's going to look like. You want to bring in money, you want somebody to invest in you, well, now you're beholden to them. Do you really want to be your boss, or do you want to be someone else's boss? If you're running a service-based business, it's very hard to sell because you're really most likely you are the product.
That's
So
right.
then you have to sell yourself. I didn't know any of that 13 years ago. Not
Well,
a thing.
the other thing is how people value time. So I remember like thinking, oh, my belly dance business is doing, $500,000. Oh, it costs $500,000 to run a belly dance business. And look at, and like I was spending 14 hours a day, and it was 13 years of my life during really important earning times. So I think especially the other piece of it is when you think about how much you will need to retire, and when you forego that time for earning, and if you take out debt, I mean, I actually still have an SBA loan
Mhm.
from kind of getting out of the business pre-COVID. And and it's an inexpensive loan, so I'm kind of just monthly chipping
It's
away at
still
it.
there.
But I remember I was joining like an entrepreneurs group, and they wanted you to grow your business. And you can grow your business, but what is it going to cost you to grow your business? Cost in terms of other people's money that you have to borrow, your own time and sanity, and also like the risk in trying something additional versus capitalizing on what your core capacity is. I had this kind of story that I call it. We call it the shorthand in my family is called second floor saffron. So when I started Saffron Dance, I had a 2,000 square foot a space, and it was like a 1940s brick building, and we completely ripped out the inside and made it two beautiful studios. And we had classes, and it was fine. It was doing well. I mean, it was definitely, we had a growing student body and great brand and great, and we were actually, I was actually earning money.
Mhm.
And the building was a two-floor, it was a two-story building, and
Yeah.
the second story became available. I didn't have the growth in my business. I wasn't
You didn't need
busting
the
out,
extra
right?
space.
I didn't have the money for it, but I was like, oh my God, it's there. I have to do it. So we took on the second floor saffron. Well, now I don't have a $5,000 a month more rent for commercial. I got a 10,000 plus, and now I have all this other studio. So that was one of the decisions that I absolutely made out of like FOMO for my own success. Like I'm missing out. But I will tell you, from a business decision, there were no there was no justification for doing it. I just wanted to grow. But the concept of growing meaning I wanted to have more classes, which mean more revenue, but I didn't necessarily have more profitability. And
No.
so these are the kind of nuances, and not even so much nuances, but first time business owners, without having um, somebody really sage next to you saying, stress testing, because I just wanted to grow that top line number. I wasn't as concerned about the margin between the top line number and the expense piece. And
Yeah.
that was a naivete that cost me dearly in my family. It cost me in my kind of my debt, my relationship with debt, and also just my own kind of sanity, because I was just
Yeah.
like, I was just on a full on sprint. So anytime I'm getting ready to do something that seems like I'm moving away from my core capacity, and I'm getting ready to take on something that maybe give me more cash, or may top line cash, but not more profitability, my husband says, second floor saffron, honey, second floor
Right.
saffron.
Well, and that is the whole thing with physical spaces. I say to a lot of people, I'm like, if you take on physical space, inventory, so space that you have to rent or buy, that is an investment that you could end up with 10,000 children's books in your garage, or an empty office that you're paying rent on during a pandemic. Those are real investments that you cannot just easily get out of.
Yeah.
So, like I've recently started sort of a subsidiary of my business. So it's not truly a second business, it's a second brand. The total investment at this point is a website and me talking to people about it. That's it. So the risk is minimal. If at the end of the day it never pans out, I can say I put in some effort, I tried, it was something I wanted to do, and I can walk away from it and not feel like I really threw, you know, my savings into it and I'm devastated. But I also think it's really important for somebody when they start a business to understand there most likely will not be profit or money for you for a while. You know, expect that first year to be very little. And I got sucked into the whole grow, 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 growing is better. And growing meant that I took on a loan. Growing meant that I
Oh,
took
I
on,
remember that loan. I
yes,
remember that loan. That's because all of the people around us, remember all those entrepreneur groups were like, you got to
grow.
get more top line. You got to more top line. And I want to be like, you could also increase your margins and you don't need top line. You could reduce your expenses.
Yeah, I hired more staff. I
Yeah.
did get more clients, but it all kind of broke out at the same place it was before I did all the growing.
Yeah.
So, I really do caution people to really get the math right. Because when it comes down to it, the money is going to be the biggest piece at the end of the day. So, learn basic accounting, learn projections, learn about your cash flow, understand how you're going to price things, how you're going to invoice. I invoice pretty aggressively. I invoice at the beginning of the month of service and I have 15-day payment terms. That's kind of unheard of. But you know what? I learned after invoicing at the end of month of service with 30-day payment terms that
Yeah.
I didn't see my money for 90 days sometimes.
Yeah.
So people pay me late now sometimes, but it's not 90 days late. It might be
Right.
30 days late, so, and if you don't like it, you don't work with me because I'm not going to work for free for months on end and hope that I'm made whole.
Yeah.
And I'm like, for goodness sakes, law firms, require retainers. They require money before they even start. I'm not doing that. So, I'm like, I could go to that model.
Well, the other thing I learned is when I was teaching dance, which this was kind of part of like, I mean, I love teaching dance. I would just prefer to teach it for free, frankly, versus trying
Yeah.
to do it for,
Just enjoy it.
yeah, 18 to $22 a person per hour. Is your time, like that hour spent, you can earn, you know, $22 a head, or you can find a model that is, anything above that. And
Right.
so for me, I just decided that I would rather do absolutely nothing than to kind of give it away. The give it away piece is like those days are over, and
Yeah.
that took me a long time to learn. That took me a
Yeah.
long time to learn.
Yeah, I will say another very positive thing for me for entrepreneurship for me, and I think this is also you, is when we feel like we know what we're doing and we have the gut
Yeah,
instinct, we don't have to go check in with anyone. I
yeah,
don't have to go get people's permission. I don't have to have it go by, 16 people at a table and they all have to come to an agreement and consensus and
right.
water down the plan and make it half of what it was. Now, that does mean it all rides on me. If
Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah,
bombs on me. But I've gotten to the point where I have enough confidence that most of the time it works out. I mean, there are times where, I'll recommend an ad campaign to a client and it doesn't get the results that they were hoping, which is why I never make promises, but I still might be surprised and
right.
disappointed. And feel like I gave them my best possible consulting advice at the beginning. And now I've learned some more lesson on, times that things don't work out the way you expect them to. But for the most part, I can make my own decisions. I really love technology. So I can look at some sort of software. If it fits within my budget and I think it's going to solve a problem for my team, I can have it that day, right? I don't have to make sure it complies with anybody's
Right.
thing or go through IT. And I really embrace technology. And I've always been like the first to Zoom. I had Zoom like 12 years ago. Nobody even knew what it was. I used to talk to the dude who started Zoom. He was the guy that you called.
I think I remember that because I remember we used to do Skype. I think Skype
Yes.
was the very first thing during COVID. And you're like, no, I'm on Zoom. Like you were, and I don't remember when Zoom started, but you're absolutely right. I do remember that you were a really early Zoom adopter.
Yeah.
I
I
had no
I
idea.
got on Slack early. I mean, I love technology and you can kind of weed out the good and the bad pretty quickly if you're a technologically inclined person. So I generally love that I can be like, let's try it. Let's see if we like it. The other thing for me that's a super positive, and for the most part, I think this has been one of my biggest priorities. And you touched on this already, but culture. The culture at my company is, I think, very positive, very supportive,
Yeah.
very employee forward. We work 4-day work weeks. We take off between Christmas and New Year's. You have unlimited vacation. I take my management team on a retreat. I
Yeah.
try to take everybody somewhere throughout the year. They get to go on trips that are fun, to different parts of the country to meet with clients. So I don't have the big budget. I'm not Google. I can't have breakfast for them every day and I can't have elaborate things, but I try to show it in the fact that I give them as much of the freedom to run their schedules, to go to an exercise class in the middle of the day if that brings them joy, and to show them appreciation, and that I think that their personal lives are just as important as mine. Um, and I also have just watched some really incredible young people become such talented, grown-ups in the workspace, which I love. It makes me, I mean, I was one of those young people when I started. Now I'm not, but it's so weird.
You're still pretty young.
Well, I mean, and when I think about it, some of my
Yeah,
staff now is about almost the age I was when I started the
yeah,
business. And, they're just like, they're butterflies. I mean, it's just
yeah,
so cool to watch them grow and become more confident and to learn and to be able to teach other people. So those are things that I've been able to cultivate. I think they're important. Is it perfect? No. I mean, there are times where the culture being remote is hard, but I think overall, it's a really big priority to have good culture. And I try to encourage my team to help define that culture. It's not Christine Wilson's culture.
right. It
I
is
can I
collective.
can enable it.
Well, the other thing I think that culture concept, and this is something that I'm experiencing now with some transition in my some clients, because I've got some client chaos going on, is that I do my very best work. I mean, I am like literally unstoppable when I feel like I'm surrounded by people who are rooting for me.
Yes.
Now, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm trying to be all Pollyannish and be like, oh, I just want to be in a place where everybody loves me all the time. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being in a space where your colleagues respect you and they admire your effort and they want you to do your best work and they want to bring their best work.
Yeah.
And that is I think organizations, like, how they have like the intellectual quotient, your math quotient, your emotional quotient. Now they have your female quotient.
Yeah.
I actually think there's a culture quotient, and
Mm.
and that culture quotient is, I think, so frequently it's like it's a touchy feely component of an organization that very few managers understand.
Yeah.
Because if you can put somebody in an environment where they feel safe, and safe is a word that maybe that's not the right word, but they feel like they are teed up to bring it every day. And that may mean they make a mistake. And
Yeah.
that may mean that they have to say, I don't understand this, or I'm a little scared of this. But if they can bring that vulnerability and that passion and enthusiasm and that curiosity, what you're going to get in the organization is far more than if someone is approaching their work with a lot of kind of like they've got a fear and a
Right.
trepidation because they're so afraid to fail. Like right now, I've got this client. I'm so afraid to fail. They're not getting my best work because I'm not my best self with it, and
Right.
that's a mistake on their end. They're
Right.
missing out on like inviting me to be all that I can be, because that's the magic. That's
Right.
the magic.
That
And
creates the synergy, which I love that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I just invite people who don't have organizations, but maybe managers, to think about how can you contribute to your colleagues bringing that magic, and how can you help, even if you are an entrepreneur, how can you cultivate an environment where, and they don't even have to be employees, they can be contractors, they can be, other people who you're working with in the same project, but people want to feel that environment where they can bring their magic.
Yeah, I agree. And I think also I didn't totally know initially who to reach out to and to have as a mentor. And I'd be happy to be a mentor to anyone starting a business. I may not be able to give them a ton of time, but I definitely can spend an hour on Zoom and give, some things like a list of things that I think you need to make sure you do. I didn't really have a mentor that was in the same place that I was. Like my dad's business was just so different and on just such a different scale. Although he was the person I called all the time crying. what do I do now? And he would talk me off the ledge. But, his experience was at a different, just different financial level, different type of industries. Um, but, it definitely, my poor mom has ridden the entrepreneur roller coaster with my dad for a long time. And I would say Oj has ridden it with me. There is a lot that will affect your partnerships. Your partners will feel it. Um, and now, my husband is technically a partner in his business, and there is a managing partner that started the firm. So I feel like he's maybe a little bit less in the position that I'm in, but he's starting to realize, like, hey, I've got a stake in all of this. This is part of me now. So I when I talk to kids in college, though, I'll talk to a lot of kids at the business school, and I'll say to them, if you're ever going to start a business, if you're feeling passionate about it, do it when you don't have a spouse, you don't have kids, you don't
Right.
have a mortgage. Your parents even potentially would take you if you totally fell flat on your face. They would help pick you back up. What a
Right.
great
When
time.
things are not very expensive,
Yes.
and the cost for not getting where you want is not as great. And you mentioned that partner piece. I mean, I will tell you, and we're going to be doing an upcoming podcast on being married for 20 plus years. I can tell you that my husband thinks that Saffron Dance was a jealous mistress. It
Hmm.
took all my time.
Yep.
It from his perspective, it didn't give me anything back,
Right.
and it sucked up all our money.
Yeah.
So he has like residual resentments
Oh,
from,
I'm sure.
and I'll tell you, like, you can have all the health and love in a relationship, but that element, like that, having that kind of way in your relationship it's not nothing. It's not
It's
nothing.
not nothing. That is for sure. And I think one of the biggest challenges that I had was, um, trying to convince him to hang in there and let it go a little longer, let it go a little
Because your
longer.
husband's very risk averse.
Yes, right, right.
And my husband is very risk averse. Although my husband did actually, he has a patent on a really cool product that he got a patent on it, and we invested, $20,000, $30,000 in it. And he actually didn't end up doing it because I basically, knowing what I went through, I was like, no, we don't have it as a couple to bring a product category for children into the marketplace. The amount of money it's going to require, I had too clear vision. So that's when I said, what else are you passionate about? Okay, building a house in Spain. Okay, do that.
Yeah. I could always help you if you do want to bring something to market in the
Oh
kids
no, we're
space.
not. Do not ever say that out loud. We are not
Okay.
bringing that to market.
No.
It
Well,
was
and I can
it
tell
was
you
a
it's expensive.
stroller. Let me tell you something. It's a stroller that you pull. See, because when you push a
Oh yeah.
stroller, you don't get to use your hands and your hand. So this is a running stroller that you pull like a rickshaw.
Ooh,
Yeah. It was called Front Runner. Yeah. Yeah. Very, very
very
cool. He had the
cool.
prototype, the patent, but no, we did not bring it to market. And we're not going to bring it to market. So
Yeah.
that is a hard stop.
Done.
Hard
I
stop.
get it. I
Yeah.
get it. But I think ultimately, one of the things that I would say for entrepreneurship is, um, make sure you have someone to help guide you through.
Yeah.
Utilize a plan and a budget, and be as stringent, strict, and cheap as possible in the beginning. Do not think that you have to look like the established competition out of the gate.
Yeah.
People will work with you potentially just because you aren't the big agency in New York City with the,
Yeah.
huge, beautiful
I'm going
office.
to add two things on that. And when you get a little bit of extra cash, do not spend it because you're going to need it.
Put it in the bank.
Do not spend it. And second thing, I'm going to give you three things. So when you get it, don't spend it. Two, pay yourself first,
Hmm.
because if you're not paying yourself first, you're just enslaved labor to yourself, and you will
Yep.
get generosity, resentment to your business immediately. And three, being an entrepreneur does not give you more time. You actually are more at the mercy of your business. There is not a day that goes by now that I don't do something, because I got to stay on it, stay in it. And I know that the folks that work for me, they're off the clock. They go home,
Yeah.
and our business is not their problem. Guess whose problem it is? My problem.
Right.
So this whole idea is that I'm going to have more time. That is a misnomer. You will have less time. Now, you may enjoy the time more, but you will not have more time. That is not true.
Yeah, absolutely. The more time, I mean, I would say now for the first time, it took 13 years for me to have a little more time. I had more flexibility in my schedule, but I didn't have more time. And it definitely, I mean, I had nannies and au pairs and went to an office and all those things. So that didn't, it wasn't like I was just home with my kids running my business. I have more time now because I have really great staff that can do a lot of the things that I used to have to do. But that also means the money that could go to me goes to them, which I'm happy for. That's a priority I've made, that I consider that part of my compensation.
Yeah.
But I didn't take vacations where I didn't work every single day for a decade.
Yeah. No, it is not to be taken lightly. And I'm not suggesting folks shouldn't do it. You just shouldn't do it unless you've got eyes wide open.
That is for sure. Um, so when you look at the businesses you've started, what would you say is the greatest outcome out of it? What is your
Mhm.
the best thing about it?
The greatest outcome is the pride that I've had in myself for thinking about wanting to do something and making it come true. And so I'm completely regret free. And that is a self, like, again, I'm all in the self love, self care piece. And listening to my voice and create, not finding a platform, but creating the platform for my voice to sing in tune in harmony with the world is the thing I'm most proud of.
Yeah, I think it's that um, I took the risk. I
Mhm,
took the risk alone. If I fell on
mhm,
my face, I fell on my face. And I am proud of what I've built. I do live regret free. Can look back and think of things I might have done a little bit
mm.
differently. I definitely
Absolutely,
know more,
absolutely.
but
I made a lot of mistakes. Just be clear, making mistakes and having regrets are two completely
two
different.
different things. I didn't know what I know. I didn't know then what I know now. I couldn't have done it differently. That was as informed as I was. Um, but I am proud of myself. And I mean, I think, I sell $1 million in revenue a year every single year and upwards of 2 million some years. That's a lot. That's a lot.
Right.
And oh, that's one of my other cautions, by the way. If you're going to be an entrepreneur and you need to sell your services, you better be decent at selling and not afraid of it. Because there are so many people that are like, well, I carved out the time to do the business, but they don't have any business because they're too afraid to put themselves out there and to be networking and to be selling. I cannot be billing my time all the time because so much of my time is business development, is non-billable time. So you better be comfortable with developing business if you're going to run your own business. And if you're not, then you need to have someone on your team that
That's
is.
right.
And I've never really done well with having someone else sell for M to M. It's really
Mm,
always had to be
yeah.
me.
Yeah, I agree. For my the organizations that I have, I feel completely responsible, with the exception of like one client. I have 100% identified, curated, landed, and cultivated that relationship throughout. Which that the good news about that is that I think that when people are decided to join their business, you give them a lot of confidence to form that relationship and write that check. Christine, you do that. I think I do that as well. There is we're not quite bus hittable for our business,
Yeah, right.
so that's a downside, but that's not an uncommon dilemma for small businesses as well. But I do agree that if you don't like to sell, if you just have the skill but you don't have the desire and the capacity to sell your skill, you should probably rethink how you bring it to the world.
Yeah. I mean, I am amazed there are some people that are like, "Oh, well, I already have the business. I already made the net and they've made the corporate connections in their past jobs." I'm like, "Good for it."
Yeah,
Go for it. That's great. But yeah, I think that you're right. I think the pride and the knowing you can do, I mean, what can't we do at this point? I feel like I have been through the ringer up and down 54 times. I'm sure there's more. But I do feel like I've been through a lot. I could do a lot of really hard things,
yeah,
having been an entrepreneur.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Well, here's to a great business year. We're at the beginning of 2025. It's gonna have, we don't know the paths yet. We're both very unsure of where the yellow brick road is right now. I think
Yep.
we're trying to
Every
figure out
day I'm walking forward though. Every day I'm walking forward.
walking forward. And the nice thing is my business and your business support each other and
Yes,
love each other.
absolutely.
And when we really can't take it, we can complain to each other.
Absolutely. And you know my business very well, and I know your business kind of well.
Yeah, you know my business very well. It's not that complicated. Yours
Well,
is
good.
much more complicated.
Yeah.
I'm always like, so what is a lobbyist exactly? What do you guys do?
That's right.
Oh, you talk to that party and that party?
That's
Oh,
right.
wow.
Yeah. It's a big party for me.
How does that all work? Yeah. Yeah. Now I find what you do to be far more complicated than what I do. So,
The
all
ego
right.
there for
Well,
sure. But well, good luck to all you business owners on
yes.
Thank Us Later. And Christine, thanks so much for being my best business friend.
Yes, you too. Thank you for keeping me sane. And if you're going to start a business and you need to reach out, let us know. We're happy to give you some ideas and warnings outside of what we've mentioned today. All right. Thanks so much.